Hi, everybody. So it's 2010. I find myself in an airplane after I worked for Morgan Stanley, and I was asked to be on an advisory council in New York. And that was because I was the top of my career, I was doing amazing, and I was asked to come be part of this council to talk about how Morgan Stanley could do things better. So typical me, I speak my mind in this meeting. I remember it so vividly. It's an all-day meeting, and people are talking around, and a lot in that industry is about kind of pleasing the person next to you. There's a lot of other words I could use for that, but that's what we did. And that was really never my thing. And I was asked to go all the way to New York to do this, so I'm going to speak my mind. So I spoke my mind, and I think I said some pretty profound things. So going home, and I'm sitting on the plane, and my boss, who had had a career there and very much played the game, I knew she played the game. My phone rings, and it's that time on the airplane where they haven't quite closed the doors yet, so you could keep your phone on. But my gut told me that she was gonna complain at me. That she did not like my being a poppy and my saying what I wanted to say, and so I didn't answer the phone. That was a very courageous thing for me to do. So I'll tell you kind of how I got there. I'm one of those people just fell in love with capital markets. This whole idea of, I started in the futures market in Chicago, that you could actually take a contract and allow a farmer to get what they needed to get for their farming to pay for their family and their mortgage, which is really what a derivative is, was just so incredibly beautiful for me. So I really kind of knew myself. And when I got to, I went to business school at Columbia in New York, everyone had these fancy Wall Street jobs, and I hadn't really had that same path. But I really spent time understanding who I was and what I really loved. And I remember when I came back to my cluster, and I had gotten a job at Goldman Sachs for the summer. And I was like, how did you get that job? They had all been down there, doing their thing. And a lot of it is because in the interview, I was asked, I think, what do you pay attention in the newspaper? And I thought Japan was fascinating. I'd love Japanese economics. And I said, I follow the yen. I said, where's the yen trading? Told him where the yen was trading. I knew myself. And that entire experience, I really stuck with that. And then there came a time where my boyfriend from business school was moving out to San Francisco in 2000. A lot of people kind of in my generation were doing that. And he took me to Yosemite. And I'm an East Coaster, and I was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like the majesty, and we went backcountry camping. I'd never done that before. And meanwhile, I knew the path to become a partner at Goldman Sachs. Like this was the late 1990s, and I knew what I could do, and I knew I could do it. But something in me was like, this is not it. And Yosemite was just so incredible, and this energy was so incredible that I went and I said, okay, I want to move out to San Francisco. So I'm going to quit my I was working in fixed income derivatives, which is pretty high powered and pretty incredible capital markets at the time. Every person said, there's your career. You go to San Francisco, there's your career. Like, I don't care. Like, this is what I need to do. This is where I need to go. And so I went out there and I continued. I ended up going into private client services, mostly because I couldn't find a job in institutional sales. And that was, again, I remember when I got that job, I would always run in Bernal Hill. That's where I lived, in Bernal Heights at the time. And I couldn't stop running. Because something inside of me just said, this is where you're supposed to be. Talk about purpose and the amazing work you guys are doing. This is my path of just, this was who I was. And I'm really feeling in. This has been the continuing theme of just feeling who I was. So I did that. I did that at Morgan Stanley. I ended up selling my business to Morgan Stanley. And I had a really good career, and I was really doing very well. And it kind of comes back to that story. But I started to really get the courage, and that's what gave me the courage to hang up on my boss. One of the things that also happened throughout this, which is very, very huge in my life, is that I had 3 children. And it was 2008, and the markets were falling apart. I'd worked in derivatives in New York. We was one of probably 1,000 people on the planet who understood that we were on financial brink of collapse, which we should be now too, but that's a different talk. We'll talk later about that. Nothing seems to break this market. But anyway, I had my third kid, and my first kid, Trevor, was a boy. I had a boy and a girl and another boy. He started to fall apart. He just became disabled out of nowhere. It was really quite extraordinary. And I started taking him to all these doctors, and nobody could figure out anything. And so I went through this period of time where the markets are falling apart. Everyone is all worried about what they're making, and I've got this child who's 5 years old. I've got a baby on the windowsill, literally, because the markets are falling apart, and I couldn't stay home on maternity leave. Like, I needed to get into the office. We didn't have Zoom then, or barely had cell phones. And through that experience, I started realizing that the healthcare system was unable to solve the problems of what was going on with my son. And that was probably because of how money was flowing and how they were being accountable and how you made your way in healthcare. And I could see the money. And I said, I don't understand healthcare. I'm not a doctor, but I understand money. And so I went back to Morgan Stanley. But the one thing, and before I go to the next chapter, is kind of what being a parent to this child who couldn't have friends, who couldn't talk, he lost all his fine and gross motor skills. So he could do nothing. And I had 2 other kids, and I was a type A person in San Francisco. There's an essay that I wrote in 2012, and you guys read an excerpt of it. This really, really drove how I felt about the world and how I wanted to teach people. What's achievement? What did this mean? So I went out and I opened my own company. I looked around Morgan Stanley and I said, this pursuit of money for wealthy people, like, this is not making any sense to me. Because what do you do as like a Jew from New York whose like kid doesn't go to Harvard? Like, I didn't know, I wasn't taught this. Like, you can go on, there's a Trevor TCR site that has the whole story here, being raised in New York in the 80s. And so I started a company that really has people learn about who they are through their money and through their engagement through their money. And it's not just about investing. Of course, all the capital for all these amazing things, like it blows my mind. I mean, we would sell derivatives to, especially in Europe and Asia, to billions of dollars that, just a little bit of funding would help all these incredible organizations. So like, I needed to fix those pipes. And so I spent a lot of time understanding myself and opening up the company I opened was Montcalm, which is the street I live in Bernal Heights. The mountain was calm, and I'd go to the top of the mountain, I'd see San Francisco, and it was so beautiful. And then I got to meet some incredible people, and that's where I'd met Goggin, who introduced me to Tim and Jennifer. And I think I did 2 data breathes. And what's really, really important to kind of get to this magic equation is that I had been doing the work. I'd been doing the personal work. I had a personal experience that was forcing me to, because there was never any good news around Trevor. Like, it was never like, oh, he's gonna be better. It was a constant decline. And I now had to carry him and diaper him and feed him, and I had 2 other kids, and it was beautiful, and it was amazing. And when you wake up over and over again, you're like, oh, this is kind of a nightmare, but this isn't changing. Like, it creates these incredible patterns in your life. And what I found so profound about pausing in a day to breathe was the introspection. There are some incredible people there who dug deeper in. Like, I really want to learn this message. Like, if I could give everyone the experience of having this child and raising 2 other kids and having a successful career in Wall Street, like, it changes you. But we can't all have that. You probably don't. I mean, it's amazing, but doing that deep introspection, I personally think it's not just pausing, it's knowing yourself. It's really digging into who you are inside and what are the patterns that you're living your life within. And how are those patterns affecting what you're doing and the decisions you're making? And so it was very profound, and I remember leaving and really felt like I was going to 10x my business because you guys had helped dig this out of me. When you say yes in the bathtub and all your cares go away, and you look at the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's that same energy of Yosemite. It's the same thing that brought me out. It's these equations in life that really start showing you what truly matters. And so Montcalm, we invest in impact investments and support amazing philanthropy. There's a new fund that Tim and Jennifer are doing, which is incredible, because the power of capital can go so far. But it's not doing it in a vacuum. And it's not stepping over here to do it. It's digging into yourself. It's really looking at how are you making decisions? How are you engaged every day in what it is you're doing and what you're doing with your money and what you're doing with how you're spending your money and your values. And so I've come to this idea of this kind of magic equation. Like, I'm very quantitative, and I'm also very spiritual and very much about energy. And these two things. So we've all heard 1 + 1 = 3. Okay, 1 + 1 = 3. Like, we know what that is. But 1 + 1 really equals 3. And for my equation that I live for, knowing yourself and honing your skills. So the thing is, if you listen to my career, like, I loved capital markets. I got really good at capital markets. I know everything there is about how money moves. I study it, I work it, I find experts. But I also really know myself. And I seek out people all the time who can help me do that. Data Breathe and the people you brought to Data Breathe. And you put those two together, really digging into knowing yourself and really honing your skills on what it is that you love, and like, it's magic. It is magic. That's abundance, but that's a success. That's feeling amazing about yourself. And that truly is what I want for everyone on this planet, because I really, really believe that if I can help people get there, then all the money's going to flow to these incredible institutions. It's a no-brainer. It's the second derivative of coming from inside of yourself. So I have the most regular story of what I'm doing, but really the combination of those two has been the biggest gift. And all I'm doing for the rest of my life is going to continue to share that, and continue to have people engage in their money and their values and what they're doing with themselves. So thank you very much.